Okay, so this is the registration chapter, and in this chapter, even before we start registration chapter, there is one requirement that we need to know. That is the meaning of the word turnover, or I can say the meaning of the word aggregate turnover. All right. So let me take you to my Excel sheet, and okay. So there are two words that we need to understand. Can you see my Excel? Okay, let me. Okay. Okay, there are two words that you need to know. One is aggregate and one is turnover. In fact, they say this is just one word called as aggregate turnover, but I'm dividing into two words. So now what do you mean by the word turnover? What do you mean by turnover? Turnover basically means value of your supply. Okay, so I can say it is value of supply. Now, what and all comes in value of supply, or what and all comes under supply? See, there can be sale, there can be transfer, and there could be barter, there could be exchange, there could be, okay, exchange spelling is wrong. All right, there could be exchange, lease, license, rental, disposal. So sum total of all of the value, okay, value of sale, transfer, barter, exchange, lease, license, rental, disposal. So all the 8 put together, it will become my turnover. It will become my turnover. Now, what do you mean by the word aggregate? Aggregate means total. Simple meaning of the word aggregate means total. Now, what do you mean by total turnover? That is to say, let us say, I have my branch in Karnataka. I also have my, oh, Karnataka spelling is wrong. How can that be wrong? Okay. So Karnataka, then there is Goa. I have also one more branch in Maharashtra. Now, in Karnataka also I make my sale. In Goa also I make the sale. In Maharashtra also I make the sale. But whenever I'm referring to the term aggregate turnover, I need to total up all these 3 states. Okay, so if in Karnataka I'm making sale of 10 lakh rupees, in Goa I'm making sale of 10 lakh rupees, in Maharashtra I'm making sale of 10 lakh rupees, what is my aggregate turnover? My aggregate turnover is going to be 10 lakh plus 10 lakh plus 10 lakh. It is going to be how much? It is going to be 30 lakh rupees. Clear with this? So this is what aggregate turnover means. Now, so then comes the question, does aggregate turnover include only taxable supplies, or also it includes exempt supply as well? Okay, so let me put question this way. Let us say I am in Karnataka itself, and I'm in Karnataka and I am making taxable supply. That is, let us say I am selling pen, okay, which is a taxable item, let us say, worth rupees 10 lakhs, worth rupees 10 lakhs. And also I'm in Karnataka only, and I am selling, let us say, pencil. You know, not the normal pencil, I'm talking about slate pencil. Slate pencil is the one, you know, which you used to use in your primary to write on that slate, what we used to call it as kaddi. So now this pencil I'm selling for, let's say, 8 lakh rupees in a year. So my question is, what is my, let us say I only have branch in Karnataka. What is my aggregate turnover? Is it only 10 lakh rupees, or is it 10 lakh plus 8 lakh, 18 lakh rupees? I want answer. How many of you feel? So raise your hands. How many of you feel my aggregate turnover is 10 lakh rupees? Okay, no hands has been raised. So how many of you feel that my turnover in my aggregate turnover in Karnataka is 18 lakh rupees? Okay. So all of you rightly feel that my turnover in Karnataka, aggregate turnover in Karnataka is 18 lakh rupees. That is to say, turnover, the word turnover will include my taxable supplies. So pen is a taxable supply. It will also include my exempt supplies. But let me ask one more question, and this question requires application of your mind and brain. So let us say I am also selling whiskey. Okay, whiskey of 5 lakh rupees. Now, what is my turnover? What is my aggregate turnover? Will it be 18 lakh or will it be 23 lakh? How many of you feel my aggregate turnover is 18 lakh? Raise your hands. Okay, all of you felt my aggregate turnover is 18 lakh rupees. And let me clarify it to you. Now, if I'm selling whiskey, is it a taxable supply or is it an exempt supply? Now you would say, see, whiskey is alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Whiskey is alcoholic liquor for human consumption. And this particular item, that is whiskey or alcoholic liquor for human consumption, is kept outside the purview of supply. It is kept outside the purview of not supply, the levy. So when you look at section 9, it says there shall be GST on all goods and services except two items, that is one alcohol liquor for human consumption, and then there is petroleum products. Petroleum is forever kept outside the definition or purview of levy, that is charge of GST. So on alcohol liquor for human consumption, there will never be GST. But so whiskey is what? Whiskey is non-taxable supply. Correct? This is what we have studied. Whiskey is a non-taxable supply. But remember, when we look at the definition of what is an exempt supply, what is an exempt supply, it says it includes three things. Which are the three things? Exempt supply word. Okay. This particular word called as exempt supply includes three things. Which are the one is which is taxed at nil rate, nil rated supply. One more is exempt by way of notification, exempted by section 11. That is your entire fourth chapter that we have studied. And the last one is non-taxable supply. Non-taxable supply. So the definition of exempt supply includes these three things. One is nil rated supply, one is exempted supply, that is exempted under section 11 of CGST Act or exempted under section 2 of CGST Act, and it will also include non-taxable supply. Now what do you mean by non-taxable supply? Your whiskey is a non-taxable supply. So once whiskey is a non-taxable supply, it comes under the meaning of exempt supply. So here, though it is a non-taxable supply, it will be treated at par with what? Par with what? It will be treated at par with exempt supply. So what is my aggregate turnover? My aggregate turnover is not just 18 lakh, because exempt is not just 8 lakh. Exempt is 8 lakh plus 5 lakh. Your entire 13 lakh is my exempt supply. So totally 23 lakh will become my aggregate turnover. So what is my aggregate turnover? My aggregate turnover is going to be 23 lakh rupees. Understood this? If understood, raise your hands. Okay, great that you have understood the concept. So we have understood what is aggregate turnover, and aggregate turnover will include my taxable supply, my exempt supply as well. But one more thing I want to clarify here is aggregate turnover will not include tax. See, simple way, at top itself I told you turnover means the value of your supply. So we already studied while reading about section 15 that value shall not include CGST, value shall not include SGST, value shall not include IGST, and value shall not include the GST cess. So that is to say, if in the question, if they ask you, there is a dealer who is from Karnataka and he is selling pencil, and the value of the pencil is 8 lakh rupees, on which he is collecting GST of, let us say, 96,000 rupees. He is also selling pencil which is exempt, and he is selling, let us say, 6 lakh rupees. Now what is his aggregate turnover? Is it 14 lakh rupees or is it 14 lakh 96,000 rupees? Okay, this is the question. So I repeat my question. There is a person who is selling pencil for 8 lakh rupees, plus he is collecting GST on that, that is 96,000 rupees. Also he is selling pencil on which he is collecting 6 lakh rupees, on which he is not collecting any GST. So what is the aggregate turnover? Is it 14 lakh rupees or is it 14 lakh 96,000? So how many of you feel it is 14 lakh rupees? Okay, so all of you feel it is 14 lakh rupees. So I repeat, the word aggregate turnover shall not include what? It shall not include tax portion. It shall not include the tax portion. Okay, this is the simplest thing. Now, so after understanding this much of basics, I believe certainly we can jump into the portion. Okay, so now let us begin what have they given in your study material. So in this chapter, what are we going to learn? They are saying we will learn persons who are liable for registration, who need to register, and who compulsory need to register. Okay, what is the difference between first one and second one is that is normally the registration criteria will apply on the base of your aggregate turnover. If your aggregate turnover is less than, let us say, 20 lakh rupees, as of now assume it to be 20 lakh rupees. If it is less than 20 lakh rupees, you don't have to register. If it is more than 20 lakh rupees, you're supposed to register. So as long as your aggregate turnover does not exceed 20 lakh rupees, you don't have to worry about registration. But however, there are certain, they have also given a list of taxpayers who need to compulsory register themselves, irrespective of your turnover. Okay, so even if your turnover is 100 rupees, you need to register. We will study who are those people. Then we will also study persons who are not liable for registration, even if they cross 20 lakh rupees of turnover, who are not supposed to register. Then I told the procedure for registration. That is, how do you actually go and open your website and apply? We will study this. Then there is amendment part, what we are studying. Amendment in the sense, let us say you started your company and your company is called as some, ABC and company. Then you take one more partner. Okay, so you started this one, which one? Yeah, so your company name was ABC and company. Then you take one more person whose name starts with D. So now you want to make it as ABCD. So you need to amend your registration, or you want to change. You want to change the place of business. Earlier, your office was, let us say, it was in Manipal. So from now Manipal, you want to shift it to Bangalore. For department, you already give the details of Manipal. Now you want to change it to Bangalore. So all this, how do we make changes? How do we make amendment? All these things we will learn. And also we will learn how do you cancel your registration? How do you cancel your registration? That is, let us say you stop your business and you don't want to pay any more taxes. So there is a procedure. It is not automatic cancellation. You need to apply for cancellation, only then it will stop. Then revocation of cancellation of registration. Let us say that you applied for cancellation and even the officer said, all right, your registration is cancelled, but later the officer gets to know that your business is still running. Then he can go ahead and cancel the cancellation. That is, he can again make you a normal taxable person. All these things we will study in detail. But in this chapter, what is important from your examination point is only these first three things. Okay, only these first three things. Questions will not come at inter level for all this. These are more of a practical issues. Questions will not come on that. Now again, theory, what you have, you can successfully ignore this. Ignore everything. Relevant definition they have given. What is an agent? What is common portal? So let me tell you, what do you mean by word common portal? See, common portal is nothing but a website. They are talking about a website. Now, why is this website called as common portal? See, portal is nothing but a website. What do you mean by common? Common means one place. Okay, so one website. So why are they using the word common? That is because the idea of GST is like, even the bankers can come and check, even the officers can come and check, even the SSCs can come and check, even the customer can come and check. Okay, so that is where this becomes a common portal. Now, let me give an example how customer can come and check. Let me take you to, okay, so this is the URL of the website, that is gst.gov.in. Okay, so this is your GST website. Okay, this is how your website looks like. Now here, if you want to log in, like let us say you're already a registered person. If you're already a registered person, then you are supposed to come here and click on login here. And you have your username and you have your password. You put it and you then log in. I'll not log in. Now, but let us say that you want to apply for registration. So how do you do that? All those things we will study. So you need to come here to this particular website, that is gst.gov.in. Then you need to come for registration tab here. You click on new registration. Then you do the actual registration. But to understand what are the different terminologies what we are using, we need to study a little bit of theory. So this part we will do little later. So, but I hope you understood what you mean by common portal. They're referring to this website, that is gst.gov.in. Now comes the question, what do you mean by the word taxable supply? Now, taxable supply simply means a supply of goods or service or both, which is leviable to tax. So what are those items which are leviable to tax? All goods, all services are leviable to tax. I repeat, all goods, all services are leviable to tax except alcoholic liquor for human consumption and petroleum products. So if I'm supplying pen, taxable supply. If I am supplying pencil, that is also taxable supply because it is leviable to tax, but let us not worry about it. So as of now, let us say that taxable supply means on which I'm paying tax, that becomes the taxable supply as of now. Now, what do you mean by taxable territory? Now, taxable territory simply means now GST is only applicable in India, okay, in simple word. So if let us say if there is some person in Canada and he is making some local supply in Canada, can Indian department ask tax from him? Answer is no, because that is not a taxable territory. That is not a taxable territory. So taxable territory is India. Now, what is India? We will discuss some other time, not now. Okay. Next is, what do you mean by place of business? Very important. What do you mean by place of business? Now, let us say I have my office in Mangalore. Now, is it my place of business? Or sometimes if my work is more, I also take some files, let us say, to my home and I work there. So even my home is my place of business. Okay. So my question is my office alone my place of business, or if I'm taking my files home to do some extra work? Okay. If the work is important, if I'm taking my file home, will it become my place of business? So that is where they have given the definition. They say a place from where the business is ordinarily carried on. So ordinarily I do my business in my own office. I don't do it from my home. I may do work at home, but business is not done at home. Okay. So work is different from business. So office is the place where clients are going to come. Office is the place where employees are going to come. So office is the place of business for me. And it includes a warehouse. It includes a warehouse, a godown, or any other place where a taxable person stores his goods, supplies, or receives goods or services both. So simply they are saying it includes the office as well as it will include your warehouse, it will include your godown, it will include all these things. Next, or now let us say that I am a freelancer. Okay, I am a freelancer. That is to say, I don't have an office. I don't have a office at all. I do my business using my phone alone. Okay, so freelancers probably like I'm a blogger or I'm a vlogger. I go to all this forest. I record the videos of animals and myself and all those things. So I'm a vlogger. I don't have a place of business. I don't have an office at all. So in that situation, what becomes my place of business? Because I don't have anything like this where the business is ordinarily carried on, because I keep moving. Today I'm in Karnataka, tomorrow I may be in Maharashtra, I may be in Jammu and Kashmir, all those things. So at that time they say, all right, in such situation where I maintain my books of accounts, okay, so where do I keep my ledgers, where do I keep my journals, all those things. So there should be one place. No, I cannot carry my books and roam around. Now you may say, what if I'm maintaining my books in my phone itself? Okay, that time your residence will become your place of business. So there is a question that in your mind, a place where a taxable person is engaged in business through an agent by whatever name called. Okay, now let us say I don't have place of business, but I have appointed an agent who does the business. So agent's shop will become my place of business. Simple as that. Okay, why it is important, I'll tell it later part, not now. Then there is something called as appellate authority. You can ignore now, don't worry about it, just ignore it. Next comes, that is fixed establishment. Now what do you mean by fixed establishment? Now fixed establishment basically means it is not a place of business, it is not a place of business, but so it is not an office. So let us say that I have my office here, and I have so much of work. Imagine I have so much of work, and to do this work, what I've done is in my village, I have set up one place. Okay, in that place, 10-20 people come, and there is computers. I send my work from here to there, and they work there. So is it an office? Answer is no. Is it a godown? Answer is no. Is it a warehouse? Answer is no. Whether my books are kept there, answer is no. So that will not become my place of business, but it is fixed establishment. Now, what do you mean by fixed establishment? Listen, it means a place other than the registered place of business, that is other than my office, which is characterized by a sufficient degree of permanence and suitable structure. So it is not just that, I have put 20 chairs, 20 plastic chairs, and I am asking them to sit. No, there is a proper structure. There is a building. In terms of suitable structure, in terms of human and technical resources. So humans also should be there, that is employees are also there, and technical resources. There are computers, server, internet, everything is there to supply services or to receive and use services for its own needs. So that becomes my fixed establishment. So we discussed what do you mean by place of business, and we also understood what is fixed establishment. Now, there is one more term called as principal place of business. Principal place of business means, now let us say that I have an office, I'm a manufacturing entity. Let us say I have my office and I have 3 factories. Now, even my factories are my place of business, but what is my principal place of business? So principal place of business, I get to choose. Officer will not get to choose. Government will not get to choose. I will tell, okay, I have my one office and I have 3 factories. In such situation, I will choose my office as the principal place of business. Okay. Now, why is this relevant is while applying for registration, I need to choose what is my principal place of business. Okay. Next is, what do you mean by proper officer? Now, this word is picked from the earlier act, like excise. So proper officer, whenever in future you are going to talk about proper officer means officer under GST. Okay. Officer under GST. That is what you need to understand as of now. So in relation to any function to be performed under this act means the commissioner. So proper officer means either the commissioner or the officer of central tax, who is assigned that function by the commissioner in the board. Now, does it mean that officer of state tax is not a proper officer? It does not mean that. We are studying CGST Act now, so we have the word something called as officer of central tax is proper officer. If you are learning SGST, if you see there, then they would have told officer of state tax is a proper officer. So both central tax employees or state tax employees, both are called as proper officers. Next is, who is registered persons? Now this is important. Okay, mark this particular definition, put 2 star marks about who is registered persons. Now it says registered persons means exhaustive definition, means a person who is registered under section 25. Who is registered under section 25? Now, who is registered under section 25? We will study little later. But it does not include a person having a unique identity number. So who are those persons who have unique identity number? Now, what do you mean by unique identity number? Are we talking about your Aadhaar number? Answer is no. So in India, there are certain specified organizations, for example, United Nations, we have UNESCO, so or else embassies, foreign embassies like, American embassy, Australian embassy, all these countries have their embassy offices in India. Now, there is a separate act in India which says none of the laws of the country shall apply to United Nations, for example. So if you have a tax law in India, the tax law is not applicable to United Nations in India. So the question is, can you charge GST on them? Answer is no, you cannot charge GST on them. Okay, but you will still ask them to get UIN. You will still ask them to get unique identity number. Question comes, why? Now let us say there is an office in Bangalore. Imagine there is an office in Bangalore of United Nations, and there they want to purchase a television. They want to purchase a television for their official purpose. Now, a seller, while he is selling to this particular branch of United Nations, he will definitely charge GST to them because he does not know whether all those agreement contracts which Indian government has entered with this United Nations. So he will charge GST. Now let us say this is a very big TV he's selling. He's charging 3 lakh rupees for the TV, and he's also charging 50,000 rupees as GST. So he will totally charge 3,50,000 rupees. Now this United Nations branch will pay that 3,50,000 rupees. Now the government will give back that 50,000 rupees to United Nations. Okay, they will give that back. So for the government to give it back, United Nations first need to apply. No? So for them to apply, they need to have a number. That is this number, unique identity number. So remember one thing, for these people, none of the GST provisions are applicable, but still they will have this particular number in order to claim refund. That's it, nothing more than that. Then there is something called as tax period. Let's not talk about it as of now. Then there is business. We already studied what do you mean by business. We're not very relevant for this particular chapter. Now, let us study section 22. Okay. So what does section 22 talks about? It says, okay, every person, okay, sorry, it starts with every supplier shall be liable to be registered under this act in the state or union territory other than special category states from where, okay, so forget about up to this line, you forget. From where he is making, from where he makes a taxable supply of goods or services, both if his aggregate turnover in a financial year exceeds 20 lakh rupees. So this was the law when it was introduced. This was the law when it was introduced. What does it say? If there is a supplier and if he is making any supply and if the aggregate turnover exceeds 20 lakh rupees, then he shall obtain registration. Okay. Next is, provided that where such persons makes taxable supplies of goods or service or both from any of the special category states, he shall be liable to be registered if his aggregate turnover in a financial year exceeds 10 lakh rupees. Normally, what is the limit? 20 lakh rupees. But if you are making supply from special category states, it becomes 10 lakh rupees. Then again, there is a provision which says, provided further that the government may, at the request of special something is given. So I'll advise, don't read this. Okay, don't read this. There is no much of interpretation that is required while reading this. I will just take you to that one chart which you need to remember. This is the chart. Let me take you there. Where it is. Come down, come down. Okay, so this is the chart which I want to show you. Okay, so which is, what is the page number? It is 7.13 page number. Okay, see. Now read this. If you are doing a business in a state, now let us imagine that you have business only in one state as of now. So if you are doing business from these states, then what is your threshold limit? It is 10 lakh rupees for both goods and services. So which are these states? It is Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland and Tripura. So these are the 4 states in which if you make supply of goods or services or both, and if your aggregate turnover crosses 10 lakh rupees, you need to compulsory register. You need to compulsory register. Now, let us talk about the second category. Second category states are states with threshold limit of 20 lakh for both goods and services. That is, if you are there in these states, that is Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Puducherry and Telangana. These are the 6 states. If you are there in these 6 states, then if you are supplying goods or services or both, then in such situation, if your turnover exceeds 20 lakh rupees, then you need to apply for registration. And all the other states, you don't even have to remember this anything. All these things irrelevant, don't study this. You just remember, except this 10 states, all the other states and union territories, if your turnover in services exceeds 20 lakh rupees, you need to register. And goods you need to register only if it crosses 40 lakh rupees. Goods you need to register only if it crosses 40 lakh rupees. What if you are selling both goods and services? Then 20 lakh rupees is applicable. Don't worry, we will solve enough sums for you to understand this. Okay, so this is the setup. Now, how do I remember this for the examination? These are the 10 different states I need to remember. So how do I remember this? So you make a shortcut. For example, 10 lakh rupees limit is applicable to 4 states. How do I remember it? So you can make a shortcut, something like, how do I remember it? I remember a shortcut called as Ma Meena Tripura. Okay. So Ma stands for Manipur, Me stands for Mizoram, Na stands for Nagaland. So it is Ma Meena Tripura. That is the first one for whom 10 lakh rupees is applicable. And how do I remember the states for whom 20 lakh limit is applicable? So there is a shortcut which I remember, that is Suptam. Okay, so let me take to this Excel sheet and let us say, okay, I write it is Suptam stands for T and A and M. Now S stands for what? S stands for Sikkim, U stands for Uttarakhand, and P stands for Puducherry, and T stands for Telangana, A stands for Arunachal Pradesh, and M stands for Meghalaya. Okay, so these are the 6 states. So how do I remember this? So remember this, or you can make your own shortcuts. So all the other states, it is 20 lakh for the services and 40 lakh rupees for the goods. Now you need to tell me. Now let us deal with certain sums, and you need to tell me whether registration is required or not. So I'm in Karnataka, so I only have my branch only in Karnataka, and my turnover is 50 lakh rupees. My turnover is 50 lakh rupees. Let us say. Now next question is whether it is goods or service. Let me say it is goods. So you tell me whether registration is required or not. So how many of you feel registration is required? Yes. Raise your hands. Okay, so all of you feel that registration is required because my turnover is more than, for goods, what is the limit? It is 40 lakh rupees. It exceeded, so I need to obtain registration. Now let us say I'm in Karnataka, but my turnover is 30 lakh rupees and I am supplying goods. So should I obtain registration or not? How many of you feel that I need to obtain registration? Nobody? All right. How many of you feel I need not apply for registration? Brilliant. So you feel I need not apply for registrations, and you are correct. The answer is correct. Now let us say I'm in Maharashtra. And I am rendering services. Okay. Let us say I'm in Maharashtra and I'm a chartered accountant there, and my turnover, I only have my business in Maharashtra and my turnover is 25 lakh rupees. Okay, 25 lakh rupees, but I am what? Supplying service. So registration is required or not? How many of you feel registration is required? Good. So you feel registration is required and you are right. Registration is required. Now I am in Kerala. And I am providing services worth rupees 15 lakhs. Okay, this is service. So how many of you feel registration is required? I'm in Kerala. Okay, so how many of you feel registration is not required? Good. So this chapter seems to be easier for you. Okay, yes. Now let us say I'm in Nagaland. And my turnover is 15 lakh rupees. And I'm supplying goods. How many of you feel I need to obtain registration? So all of you feel that in Nagaland, registration limit is 10 lakh rupees. If it is more than 10 lakh rupees, I need to obtain registration. Great. So I'm in Telangana. Now it is trickier. I am in Telangana, and I am supplying goods. And my turnover is 25 lakh rupees. Supplying goods and my turnover is 25 lakh rupees. Now, wait, let me ask a question. Don't raise hand until I ask my question. So my question is, how many of you feel that I need to obtain registration? Okay, so now I want to say that the answer is wrong. No, I'm kidding. Your answer is correct. Okay, it is Telangana comes in Suktam. For them, 20 lakh rupees is the limit. Now let us talk about Jammu and Kashmir. What happens to Jammu and Kashmir? Let us say my turnover is 30 lakh rupees and I'm dealing with goods. So should I obtain registration or not? Yes. How many of you feel I need to have registration? Registration not required. How many of you feel registration is not required? Okay, so registration is not required. Now last one, Meghalaya. So let us say I'm in Meghalaya and I have a service worth rupees 15 lakh rupees. Okay, I'm providing service of 15 lakh rupees. How many of you say that I need to obtain registration? How many of you feel I don't have to have registration if I'm in Meghalaya, if my turnover does not include exceed 20 lakh rupees? You are correct, because Meghalaya comes under that Suptam list. So 20 lakh is the registration limit. So registration is not required. So I hope you are clear about this particular part. Now let us start talking about what if I am dealing both in goods and services. I am dealing both in goods and services. Okay, so let me start with the fresh line from here. So this is, I was either dealing in goods or either dealing in services. From here, let me put it this way. I am in Karnataka and my turnover is 30 lakh rupees. My turnover is 30 lakh rupees. I deal in both goods and services. So whether my registration is required or not required, how many of you feel registration is required? Raise your hands. Okay, so all of you feel registration is required. I agree with you. Okay, now let us say I am in Telangana and I'm supplying both goods and services worth rupees 25 lakh rupees. Breakup is not necessary. Breakup is not important as of now. It will not change any of your decision. So how many of you feel registration is required? Correct. So registration is required. So let us say I'm in Manipur. Okay, I'm in Manipur and my turnover is 12 lakh rupees and I'm dealing both in goods and services. How many of you feel registration is required? Brilliant. So you're right, registration is required in this situation, because for Manipur it comes in that Mamina Tripura, so 10 lakh is the limit. So the moment it crosses 10 lakh rupees, may it be for goods and services both. So only the Suptam you need to keep in mind. Okay, let us say I'm in Sikkim and my turnover is 30 lakh rupees. Okay, 30 lakh rupees and I'm supplying both goods and services, both goods and services. How many of you feel registration is required? You feel that? Yes, registration is required. I am in Maharashtra and my turnover is 21 lakh rupees. My turnover is 21 lakh rupees and I'm dealing both in goods and services. Last question. Tell me how many of you feel registration is required? Okay, registration is required. So I hope that you have a fairly good idea about this. So in that situation, let us go with the third category of question. The third category of question is, what if see, we said that there can be three classification of states. One is Mamina Tripura state, one is Suptam states, and last one is other states. So as long as I don't have business in multiple states, there is no confusion. But now let us talk about, I am in Karnataka. I'm in Karnataka and I'm also in let us say Maharashtra. I'm also in Maharashtra And in my Karnataka, my turnover is 25 lakh rupees. And in Maharashtra, my turnover is 16 lakh rupees. Okay, and I'm dealing both goods, in goods and here also goods. So it is one business. It is one business only. So now you tell me, uh, whether registration is required. If yes, in what states? Whether in Karnataka it is required, or whether in Karnataka and Maharashtra both required. How many of you feel only in Karnataka it is required? Okay, Puneet feels, okay, Puneet, Unnati feels only in Karnataka it is required. How many of you feel, the question number 2, how many of you feel registration is required in both the states? Okay, so answer is registration has to happen here also, it needs to happen here also. That means to say that I need to obtain two registration. It is not one registration. It is not like your Aadhaar card, like your PAN card or passport. No. In GST, registration is state specific. So in Karnataka also I need to apply for registration. Also, I need to apply for registration in Maharashtra. So 2 times I need to go to website and I need to register myself. So one thing that you need to be very clear about. Why reason is because your aggregate turnover, what is your aggregate turnover? Aggregate turnover is the total of turnover of both Karnataka and Maharashtra. So it becomes how much? It becomes 41 lakh rupees. Hence, registration is mandatory. Okay. So now let us talk about example number 2. So let us say I'm in Karnataka and my turnover is 25 lakh rupees here. Okay, no, I'll keep a smaller one. My turnover is 12 lakh rupees here. And next comes the question. Uh, I'm also doing my business in, let us say, Manipur. I'm in Manipur and my turnover in Manipur is, let us say, 7 lakh rupees. Both places I'm dealing with goods. Goods and goods. So tell me, should I register in Karnataka or should I register in Manipur or should I register in both the states, Karnataka and Manipur? How many of you feel that I need to register in both the states? Okay. How many of you feel that I need to register only in Manipur? The answer to this question is, I need to register only in Manipur. I need to register only in Manipur and I need not register in Karnataka. Why? Because my aggregate turnover becomes how much? 19 lakh rupees. Now, if my aggregate turnover is 90 lakh rupees and if I'm in Manipur, it is more than 10 lakh rupees I need to register. But if my aggregate turnover, if I look from Karnataka's point of view, I don't have to register because it does not cross 40 lakh rupees. Clear with this? If you are clear, then raise your hands or else I'll repeat my point again. Okay, you are clear with that. So let us move on. So only in Manipur registration is required, not otherwise. Now let us talk about one more scenario. Let us say I'm in Sikkim and then I'm also in Mizoram. Okay, and here it is 6 lakh rupees and here it is also 6 lakh rupees. And I'm dealing in services in both the states, services here and services here. What happens now? In Sikkim, how many of you feel only in Sikkim I should register? How many of you feel in, okay, how many of you feel I need to register in Sikkim? Okay, nobody. How many of you feel I need to register in Mizoram? Perfect. So here it is no and here it is yes. Okay, so this is how we, lot different types of permutations and combinations that we study. So if you have any doubts as far as this is concerned, you can ask me now. And remember, whether I'm making a taxable supply, exempt supply will not make any difference. Okay, will not make any difference because everything comes under the definition of aggregate turnover. But while discussing section 23, I'll say one more additional point, but as of now, it is not required. If you understand this, it is more than enough. Okay, you understood this, no? Okay. Now let us again go back to your study material. And let us study all these points. One more point about aggregate turnover. This is important. Aggregate turnover, they're saying aggregate turnover, that is point number A. Aggregate turnover to exclude inward supplies on which tax is payable under reverse charge. That is to say, let me take you to that which sheet I was discussing about. Okay, aggregate turnover, no? Okay, so here we were talking about aggregate turnover. So my turnover is always an outward in nature. That is, if I make supply, that is my turnover. If I make any purchase, that is not my turnover. Okay, sometimes on my purchase also I will only pay GST. That is a different fact or different matter altogether. But what you need to remember is, if I'm making purchase, it is never my turnover. I may have to pay tax because of reverse charge mechanism being in place, but that is not my turnover. So if there is a sum, okay, which asks like this, which puts like this, let us say I am a businessman in let us say I'm a businessman in Maharashtra, and these are my details. Sale of pen, okay, sale of pen is 12 lakh rupees, and next is sale of pencil, not pen, sale of pencil is 9 lakh rupees. Then sale of whiskey is again 8 lakh rupees. Then they will give one more information. Received legal services. Received legal services. That is how much? Let's say 5 lakh rupees of legal service which was received. And let us say received GTA service. Received the GTA service on which recipient had to pay tax, that is 3 lakh. So what is my aggregate turnover? You tell me, what is my aggregate turnover? Is it 12 lakh plus 9 lakh, that is 21 lakh rupees? That is the first option that you have. Is it 21 lakh rupees? Or option number 2, what you have is it 21 plus 8? Is it 29 lakh rupees? That is option number B. Option number C is 29 plus 8, that is 37 lakhs. There is no option number D. Don't expect option number D. That is not there at all. So tell me, how many of you feel answer is option number A, 21 lakhs? Okay, nobody. How many of you feel answer is option number B, 29 lakhs? Okay, so how many of you feel it is answer number C, 37 lakhs? Okay, so all of you agree that my turnover is only option number B. That is, all these three things will become my turnover. That is my outward supplies. These are my receipts. On this, I am only paying tax, but this will come under my tax liability, but this will not come under my aggregate turnover. I may have to pay tax on this, but these are not my turnover. So they should not decide whether I should register or not. Okay, that is the one thing that you need to keep in your mind as of now. Next. B. Aggregate turnover excludes element of CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST and compensations as we discussed. Okay, it will not include tax portion. Then aggregate turnover to include total turnover of all branches under the same PAN. That is, if you have Karnataka, if you have Maharashtra, Goa, anywhere you registered, for the purpose of aggregate turnover, you need to total the sale or you need to total the turnover of all the states which is registered under single PAN. Okay, now this is wait, Arunachal is raising hand. Why are you raising hand? Is there a question?
No, sir.
Okay, no question. So now As long as it is registered under same PAN, it becomes aggregate turnover. I'll give an example to you. Let us say Mr. A, that is me, okay, Mr. A, I have my one shop, okay, and I am doing as a owner, proprietor. I'm doing my business as a proprietor, and my supply is 15 lakh rupees. All right. So as a chartered accountant, let us say my turnover is 15 lakh rupees. Then I also am a partner in, Measure A, B and Company. I'm also partner in Measure A, B and Company, and it is a firm, and the turnover there is 8 lakh rupees. Okay, let us say it is also service industry. So you tell me, should I obtain registration or not? How many of you feel that I need to get registration? How many of you feel my turnover exceeds 20 lakh rupees, hence I need to apply for registration? How many of you feel I need not obtain registration because my personal PAN is different and my firm PAN is different? Okay. So I hope that you got the question. That is here different PAN. Okay. So here it is a different PAN, and for the firm it is a different PAN. Hence I cannot total it. But let us say I have my one branch in Karnataka, total is 15 lakh rupees. One in Delhi, there again is 10 lakh rupees. Now if you ask what is my aggregate turnover, it becomes 25 lakh rupees. Okay. So that is one understanding that we need to have. Okay. Now let us go for the next point. Value of exported good service, exempted good service, interstate supplies between distinct parties have to be, oh, this is aggregator. This is important. Interesting. Let's say I have shop, okay, in one Delhi and one more in Punjab. Now, my sale in Delhi is, let us say, 10 lakh rupees. My sale in Punjab, let us say, is 8 lakh rupees. This is not a problem. There is also transfer. Transfer from Delhi branch to Punjab branch. From Delhi to Punjab, let us say it is 6 lakh rupees. From Punjab, I never transferred anything to Delhi. But remember one thing, it is my branch, it is also my branch. Both are my branch only, but from my Delhi branch, I sent it to Punjab branch. Now, you need to tell me what is my aggregate turnover. Is it 18 lakh rupees or is it 24 lakh rupees? How many of you feel my turnover is 18 lakh rupees? Okay. How many of you feel my turnover is 24 lakh rupees? Okay. Okay. So my turnover is 24 lakh rupees. That is because there is transfer, there is interstate transfer. What do you mean by interstate? From one state to another state, there is transfer of distinct persons. Who are distinct persons? Distinct person means the same person who is registered under two different states, he will be called as distinct persons. Because I said GST registration is a state specific concept. So in Delhi, I have a different GST number, and in Punjab, I have a different GST number. So if I'm transferring from Delhi to Punjab, though it is of a common person, I am the common owner, but still it will be treated as transactions between distinct person, and then it will form part of my aggregate turnover. See, this is supply, even if made without consideration, we already studied in schedule 1. Let us not go back and dig more. So my aggregate turnover becomes 24 lakh rupees, and on the basis of that, I decide whether I need to obtain registration or not. Okay. So this is one concept. Now let us say I have branches under both the branches under Delhi. Okay, so from my one branch, I sold 10 lakh. From another branch, I sold 8 lakh. And from my one branch to another branch, I transferred 6 lakh rupees of item. Now you tell me, how many of you feel my turnover is 18 lakh rupees? Absolutely correct. That is because both are in the same state. So these are not distinct persons. These are same person. So hence it is not covered under schedule 1 transaction. It is not my turnover. So it is not my aggregate turnover. Simple. Okay. So it is 340. So let us take break for, or else let us stop today's class here only. So this is what we studied, that when registration is required. So in tomorrow's class, we will study about compulsory registration. That is one topic. If I start, I want to finish it off. Okay. So as of today, you understand this, that normally registration is not required until I cross a threshold limit. And what is this threshold limit? That is, normally earlier it was 20 lakh rupees for both goods and services. And for special category states, it was 10 lakh rupees for both goods and services. But lately they made some amendment from 1419. And now we have three types of states. For category number 1, it is 10 lakhs for both goods and services. So category number 1, it is Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, and Tripura. Category 2, it is 20 lakh for both goods and services. Those are Suktam states, that is Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Puducherry, Telangana, Arunachal Pradesh, and Meghalaya. And category 3 states, what we have, that is most of the states. What we study there is, for services it is 20 lakh rupees, and for goods it is 40 lakh rupees. But if I'm supplying both goods and services, then it is only 20 lakh rupees. Okay, for the category 3 states. With this, let us end today's class. If you have any questions, you can ask now.